Hello and welcome to Philosophy 125 with me, Scott Merlino. The best way to contact me is merlino@csus.edu. This is the first lecture slideshow of the semester. There should be about 13 or 14 of these. These will appear each week within the modules in Canvas. This is how to find online content for this course. Log into mycsus.edu. Use your official CSUS username and password. Click on Canvas, and then on the dashboard, select Philosophy 125. What follows are screenshots of the MySAC State page that has a link to Canvas, an image of the Canvas dashboard where your enrolled courses appear once you've logged in, the home page for the course with links to announcements, modules, discussions, quizzes, grades, handouts, weekly lecture slideshows, etc. And there's an image of the two required course texts. The Philosophy of Science text by Samir Okasha actually comes in two editions, the first and the second. You can use either one. I recommend the second. It's available in Red Shelf. You can rent it. It's digital. I don't recommend. You don't need to use the paperback version. This is the least expensive way to look at the material I want you to read from this text. Learning modules in this course are going to be arranged around chapters in this text. See the syllabus for the exact sequence of chapters we follow. We do not follow the sequence exactly as it appears in the text itself. Again, see the link to the Red Shelf site on the syllabus for access to this book. The second text we will use later in the course. It's called Science and Religion, Are They Compatible? This book transcribes a debate between two philosophers, Dan Dennett and Alvin Plantinga. It's required reading, and it is available in paperback from Amazon. See the link to it on the syllabus. You will need to have read all of this for the last few weeks of the semester. There is no digital version of this text. About all of these lecture slideshows, which essentially take the place of actual lectures where, due to COVID, we are unable to meet in person. My slides are essential viewing and are based primarily on material presented in assigned readings from course texts and handouts and videos I provide in Canvas. However, slides, by their nature, are sketchy, superficial outlines. They are not substitutes for reading the original material I reference or for watching the videos I post. Slideshows never contain all you need to know to pass the course. They are tools for presentation. They're not the content itself. I recommend that students view slides multiple times. Scan them once before reading the relevant handouts and text chapters to familiarize yourself with the conceptual issues. And then read assigned material and view other required items within the module. Review slides again more slowly after working through the list of items in the module. Okay, so this is the introductory section of the course. This is what I ordinarily do on the first class meeting. These slides cover approximately the first week of the course. You should read Chapter 7 of the Okasha text and Handout 1, especially sections 1 through 7, before reviewing these slides extensively. The next slideshow, released next week, will cover the remainder of Handout 1. There will be one slide set released at the beginning of each week with the exception of Thanksgiving week. So, read the first handout on the Canvas homepage for this course. It's called Introduction and Why People Respect and Distrust Science, especially sections 1 through 7. Also, read Chapter 7 and Chapter 1 in the Okasha text, in that order. Visit the blog page, which is updated weekly. There's a link to this in Canvas within each module also. So why take this course? In my opinion, none of us is as smart as we think we are. Each of us is prone to error, magical thinking, and emotional reasoning. We tend to believe what people we trust tell us, as long as it sits comfortably with what we believe already. We like stories, not statistics. We accept false beliefs because we misperceive or are deceived. And yet we must judge information, new discoveries, all of the time, especially those coming from science. Scientists often tell us things we don't want to hear. Philosophy is the best critical thinking tool we have for evaluating claims and reasoning, scientific or otherwise. We must always guard against our biases, nonsense, and bullshit. This course introduces methods for doing this. Scientists tell us things we don't want to believe, things we don't want to hear. For instance, masks. We don't want to wear masks. Masks reduce airborne transmission of infectious aerosol particles, which are released when people breathe and speak, by asymptomatic infected individuals as well. No masking maximizes exposure, whereas universal masking results in the least exposure to these harmful viral particles. Here's a nice list of 10 of the most disturbing scientific discoveries from the Smithsonian Magazine I thought I'd share with you. Number 1, the Earth is not the center of the universe. Number 2, the microbes are gaining on us. Number 3, there have been mass extinctions in the past, and we're probably in one now. 4, things that taste good are bad for you. 5, E equals mc squared enables us to create enough energy to destroy a city. 6, your mind is not your own. 7, we are all apes. 8, cultures throughout history and around the world have engaged in ritual human sacrifice. 9, humans have already changed the climate for the rest of this century. 10, the universe is made of stuff we can barely begin to imagine. All right, what is philosophy? This is a philosophy course. People make assertions, state beliefs, and often just expect their listeners to accept what they say. For instance, genetically modified organisms are unsafe, or herbal supplements reduce depression, or global climate change is not caused by humans. Should we believe them? When? Why? Philosophy offers methods, logic, and an attitude, begin with doubt, seek truth via evidence, for answering these questions. In this course, we'll talk about logical reasoning. I'm not going to go too deep. You need a formal course for that, but I want to give you a little preview of what's to come. We need a way to sort out the statements people make. We need to be able to see clearly, quickly, when people are contradicting themselves, or when people are saying things that are not consistent with other things we already believe, or with things they already say or believe. Here's a scary logic preview. This is called the square of opposition. Go ahead and look at this on the Stanford Encyclopedia of Philosophy if you want more detail. Again, I'll return to this later in the course. What you want to see here there are basically 4 kinds of absolute statements, 4 kinds of absolute conditional statements. A, E, I, O. An A statement is anything of the form every S is P. An E statement is anything of the form no S is P. An I statement is of the form some S is P. And an O statement is of the form some S is P. And the S stands for your subject and the P stands for, your predicate. Notice that A statements imply I statements. Every S is P implies that some S is P. E statements imply O statements. That is, if it's true that no S is a P, then it's true that some S is not P, or at least one S is not P. However, take note, A is not the opposite of E, because both may be false. Both can't be true at the same time, but both might be false. For instance, every S is P, suppose that's false. Suppose no S is P is false. What would that be like? That would be like at least one, or one S is P. Also, even though I and O statements are compatible, some S is P is compatible with some S is not P, I never implies O, and O never implies I, since one may be true while the other is false. For instance, suppose I say that some pit bulls are vicious. Some pit bulls are vicious is the opposite of the claim no pit bulls are vicious. What's the relation of an I claim to an O claim? If I say some pit bulls are vicious, does that mean some are not? No. Suppose it's true that some pit bulls are vicious because they all are. Well, if they all are, then it's a mistake to say that some are not. Let's look at O statements. Suppose it's the case that some pit bulls are not vicious. Different scenario. That's consistent with the claim that some are, but we might live in a world, perhaps not this one, we might live in a world where some pit bulls are not vicious is true because none of them are, right? So if none of them are, then it's not the case that some pit bulls are vicious. So we'll get to this later, but this is why we call such statements I and O statements. We say of each of them, the relation to each other is this. They are called subcontraries. Both could be true, that is compatible, consistent with each other, but both cannot be false. Moving on. What is philosophy? Philosophy examines rational reasons for and against accepting claims, regardless of emotional, practical, or personal appeal. Thus, philosophy tests beliefs, analyzes concepts, evaluates arguments. Philosophy of science is that part of philosophy that examines scientific reasoning in history, its successes and failures. What is the philosophy of science? Where philosophy, in general, evaluates beliefs and reasoning, philosophy of science evaluates the assumptions, methods, and implications of allegedly scientific beliefs and reasoning. For example, consider claims about what people should eat. Here's a view. The healthiest diet for humans is to eat the way our ancestors did over 10,000 years ago. They ate mainly fish, grass-fed, pasture-raised meats, eggs, vegetables, fruit, fungi, roots, and nuts, and excluded grains, legumes, dairy products, potatoes, refined salt, refined sugar, and processed oils. Anybody who believes something like this subscribes to what I'll refer to generally as, and simplistically as, paleo diet advocates. But is it true? Did our ancestors really eat this way? Should we? Watch the video debunking the paleo diet by anthropologist Dr. Christina Warner in YouTube. I also have a link to this and other videos you need to watch, by the way, on the blog page. Whatever videos appear on the blog page, those are mandatory watching. In some cases, those videos will be the subject of quiz questions, essay quizzes, or discussion topics. Here's Christina Warner on this. The version of the Paleolithic diet that is promoted in popular books on TV, on self-help websites, and in the overwhelming majority of popular press has no basis in reality. Now, she's a biomolecular archaeologist at Harvard University. She's what I think it's fair to say is a credible expert about primitive diets. What is the philosophy of science? The philosophy of science, again, analyzes scientific concepts and evaluates scientific reasoning. For example, where scientists ask, what causes this event? Something happens, we want a specific story that explains it. Philosophers ask, all right, what is a cause? What's going to count as a causal story? What's going to count as an explanation of those events, whatever it is you're trying to explain? How exactly does an explanation work? Which explanations are best? We'll talk about this later in the course. Just because a theory or story explains does not mean it's true. Think about it. For example, demon possession explains all sorts of antisocial behavior, but so does psychosis. So explanations can be convincing and false. The philosophy of science asks, what is an explanation? And what counts as a good explanation? Understanding how science works and reasons can save your life. This is the next KCD comic. Skipping this. This course examines answers to these specific questions. Why do people respect but also distrust science? Why are most scientists and physicians so negative about alternative medicine? Hey, isn't truth relative to your perspective? What is scientific knowledge? What's the difference between science and non-science? How does scientific reasoning work? Does science describe reality? How do scientific explanations work? What makes a theory scientific? And what makes a scientific theory good? How compatible are science and religion? Physicist Neil deGrasse Tyson has this to say: to be scientifically literate is to empower yourself to know when someone else is full of bullshit. Philosophy of science has many interests and ideas and concepts. We will discuss all of these on this slide here, although some of these will become relevant right away. For instance, we'll talk about what realism is and relativism. Here are some additional things to do this week. I want you to explore the links to more material, videos, and study questions in Canvas. Begin the self-study assignment on intelligent design and evolution in Canvas, Module 1, by looking at the excellent Wikipedia articles on these topics. Look at the article on intelligent design. Go to Wikipedia, type in intelligent design. There are sophisticated notions of intelligent design, and there are less sophisticated notions of intelligent design. Six-day creationism is a version of intelligent design we will not be spending much time on. However, the sort of intelligent design I will talk about later in the course, and we're going to refer to when we discuss Daniel Dennett and Alvin Plantinga debating the compatibilities, incompatibilities of scientific reasoning and religious thinking. We're going to look at this conflict of worldviews. When these two guys are talking about intelligent design, they're not talking about the version that says Earth was created in 6 days, God rested and let everything unfold the way God planned. They're talking about the following specific idea, that there are certain aspects of the universe and of living things in particular that are best explained, only explained by there being an intelligent, super powerful creator. The process of natural selection, while true and operating, is the way this intelligent creator made some of the enormous diversity and variety of things in nature emerge. You need to read also the entry on evolution. It's very good. It's one of the best I've seen. You don't need to know all of this, but you need to understand it to the extent that you don't hold some of the more common misunderstandings. And these misunderstandings are going to be addressed in a tutorial I have for you to go through on your own within the first few weeks of the course, located at UC Berkeley online. So you should also complete the tutorial Evolution 101 via the link in Canvas to the UC Berkeley site, I'd say by the end of week 5. If you have learned about evolution in school, then this tutorial is a good way to refresh your memory and organize your thoughts about what exactly the theory says and does not say. It's an antidote to much misunderstanding and disinformation. Now, if you have not learned about evolution, then this is the best method I know to introduce you to it outside of a course taught by an expert. For next week, week 2, our topic question is this: why do people respect and distrust science? Go ahead and look at the material on the rest of handout 1, sections 7 through 15, I believe, and move into module 2 as soon as it becomes available. This is the end of the lecture slideshow for week 1.